Today I have an amazing conversation with Whitney Jones, the three-time Miss Fitness Olympia champion. We talk about her mentality of not being afraid, how she stays happy, why she focuses on the work and not the outcome, which is a boss move in my book. I think you're going to love Whitney. Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show, and I'm so excited to have Whitney Jones with me today. Whitney, welcome to the How Did It Happen podcast.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here and excited for a fun little discussion, conversation, and party that we're about to have.
Yeah, so I found you, I quote unquote found you when I heard you on Steve Sims' The Art of Making Things Happen podcast. And it's sort of become my thing now, like now that I'm up to almost 300 episodes, well, you'll be over 300. I've kind of become very picky about who I try to engage with. And, I listened to him, you were on there, you went to Genius Network and you spoke at Genius Network with 𝙁𝙘𝙧𝙚, and I'm in another group with him. And you just really kind of caught my attention. And then when I looked you up and stuff, I thought, oh boy, it would be great to try to connect with her. So that's how that came about. And thank you for responding to me and agreeing to be on the show. So let me tell you a little bit about Whitney so you'll get as excited as I am today. So I love the way she starts her bio. She says, I am a single mom to two incredible boys, ages 13 and 16. Is that still correct? 13 and 16?
Yes, actually, my youngest is about to turn 14, though. So just a few more.
Okay. She's also the owner of Pro Physiques, the largest personal training gym in the state of Arizona. She's a personal trainer, contest prep coach, and fitness choreographer to athletes around the world who compete at NPC, which is the National Physique Committee, and IFBB, which is the International Federation of Bodybuilders, correct?
Yeah.
Sanctioned events. So in addition to her Pro Physiques business, she also has 4 additional companies. We'll go into those a little bit later because I'm interested in how sort of maybe one grew off of another. As I'm kind of assuming maybe that's how that went. And she has a weekly show called FemFlex Friday, which is produced by Wings of Strength, and it's focused on women in the fitness area, fitness industry. So that means that women who are running gyms and that kind of thing, or women who are athletes. What's the target?
It's kind of a wide range. Anyone that really has any association to fitness. So it could be somebody who is an athlete currently competing, retired athlete. They could own a gym. It could be somebody who is in any genre of fitness, a dancer, a boxer, anything, you name it. We have a wide variety of people on the show. Okay.
Casting a wide net there then.
Yeah.
Okay. So Whitney is currently ranked #1 in the world and enthusiastically holds the prestigious title of 3-time Miss Fitness Olympia. The Olympia is comparable to the Super Bowl or the World Series in her sport, which is saying something. And have a 3-time champion here. Congratulations, by the way, that's amazing. But I love what you followed it up with which is what I'm most proud of, is that she is the first ever mother to hold an Olympia title. And what you didn't say in there is you also got started in this much later than I think most of your competitors do as well. So there's a great story in there about reinvention or transformation or something that hopefully we will tease out. So anyway, Whitney is, well, you're going to find out what she is. She is an incredible woman. And I start every show with the same simple question, and that is, how did it happen for you?
Gosh, to summarize it, I would say through drive, tenacity, and a fearless mentality. I mean, that just kind of sums it up. But in reality, not being afraid of risk, not being afraid of change, taking every setback as a challenge to make it the most epic comeback, and literally enjoying the journey every step of the way, even the bad days, trying to find the gold in it.
And how do you do that? I mean, people are listening, I'm sure, and they're saying that doesn't sound possible. So, so why don't you answer that, and then I might get a little more granular with it if you don't mind.
Sure. I mean, honestly, it goes back to the mindset. I've learned through so many experiences in my career as an athlete, as well as in business, as well as in my personal life. You have to just be able to flip your mind whenever you're going through bad times, having a rough day, struggling with a major issue in your life. There's always a positive spin on it. And it allows you to get out of victim mentality, from the pity party. So many people, especially with what's going on right now, with all the craziness in the world, you can get stuck there. But I always had this drive. I never wanted to have this mediocre life. And I realized that I have control over that. So being able to show gratitude every day, being able to find the gold in the horrible days and go, okay, that was disastrous, or that did not go exactly as planned, or this is going to be a huge thing that I'm going to have to overcome. You got to find the good in it, because it gives you something to hang on to versus dwelling in the negative. So being able to switch your mind to the positive mindset is honestly what has helped propel me to live a greater life, live a happier life, and achieve things that I, back in probably 20 years ago, never would have thought possible. But it's just not allowing yourself to play the victim.
And do you have a process that you use for that? Because I consider myself a very optimistic person and a positive person. And sometimes things happen that I just can't flip the switch on it immediately. I think I'm pretty good at switching it quickly, but I'm wondering how do you have a process, or what do you do to center up or level up when you're feeling, when you might be feeling defeated or deflated, or whatever the right word might be?
Yes, actually. And it's something that I have a clothing line called Fearless, and the whole aspect of that company came out of me trying to find a methodology, a process to stay on this path that I wanted to, of positivity. So whenever it is something that's just crazy, bad day, bad situation, I try to take a step back, and it's way easier to do it if you can block out the noise, if you can have even 5 minutes to yourself and sit down and think, okay, what is it that I'm really afraid of? Whether it's a bad situation, thinking of the worst case scenario, when you truly face it head on and go, okay, how bad could this be? What is all the things that could possibly go wrong, or that could become worse out of this situation? And once you identify all that, it's almost like, for me, it kind of calms me down, because it's never as bad as it seems. But when you live in that fearful mentality, it can paralyze you, where you just can't break out of it. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you're not thinking through the process. You have to force yourself to go, oh my gosh, this happened. How bad is it going to be? And even if it's catastrophic, you've got to be able to let your mind go through the process of realizing that could happen, knowing it potentially is going to be the outcome. But when you can prepare your mind for it, it's a lot easier to handle, and then almost guarantee it's never going to be as bad as we visualize it to be.
I've heard people saying that, you probably have heard this too, that, and I don't know, whenever I hear stats, I'm never quite sure where they come from, but
right.
I've heard people say that up to 90% of what you worry about never happens.
Right.
Never comes to.
Firm believer in that. I work with so many clients, friends. I'm the sounding board for so many people, because they're like, gosh, you always seem so happy. It's a process. You got to work through it. But it is, so many people are so scared of the unknown, and they're just allowing themselves to worry about stuff that is so insignificant or so out of the park left field. You're like, that's what you're worried about?
Right.
Allowing people to talk through it sometimes helps them realize how ridiculous it is, and it brings them back to center.
And tell me about your parents. Did they instill this in you initially, or was this something that, where did it come? Where can you trace it to, I guess?
Well, so I would say I was very fortunate to have an amazing family growing up. My mom and dad were married, and my mom, unfortunately, has passed about 10 years ago. But I still have my dad, and I had two older brothers. So I was the youngest. And honestly, a lot of my fearless mentality was because I had two older brothers that I was constantly trying to keep up with. And they helped kind of teach me, you can't sit here and play poor me. No one cares. No one's going to give you sympathy. And then my parents also, I love it. Growing up, I used to just knock my head against the wall thinking, gosh, they just don't care. They would never allow a pity party. My mom would call me out in a heartbeat. She was amazing because she would listen. She would allow me to voice, my concerns, my feelings. And then she'd say, okay, I understand. And then basically flip it and say, so what are you going to do about it? Because you're not going to sit here and have a pity party for yourself. And it was powerful. I now implement those same tactics, but it's just a matter of knowing that I was in a safe environment, that I was loved. I was able to express freely. We didn't grow up with a lot. And I think that honestly helped too, because we had to entertain ourselves with the most simplest things in life. We had to lean on each other for support and entertainment and encouragement. And it just helped kind of shape who I was in regards to knowing I want to achieve amazing things in life, and I can do it, but I got to try, and I got to have a strategy, and I can't expect others to help me. If I want something, I need to go after it myself. So a lot of that absolutely was instilled in my upbringing, for sure.
And were you also working at a young age?
Yeah. I think too, because again, my family we didn't have a lot of money. One thing I think is the greatest trick growing up was my dad used to always say, we are so rich. And honestly, I remember, and this may sound ridiculous, I thought we were rich up until my freshman year in high school, because we never compared. I didn't realize we weren't poor living on the streets by any means, but we were pretty below average from everyone in my friends group, neighborhood, family friends. But he always said, we are so rich. We have everything we need. We have a house. We have the love. We have a family. We have our health. And I think that was the coolest thing ever. But then when you put that monetary value on it, we never had that. But we were just raised to work. So even growing up as an elementary school kid, both my brothers and I, we all started businesses. We were little entrepreneurs at a very young age, because if we wanted to go to Circle K with our friends and get a snack, our parents were not giving us money for that. It wasn't like that. So you needed to get money, and it wasn't from an allowance. My parents didn't do an allowance. You had to make money from some other sources. So we did car washing businesses. My brother had a lawn mowing service. My other brother was doing door-to-door sales with anything and everything you could find. But yeah, we were literally mini entrepreneurs, and now we all own our own businesses too as grown adults.
What are your brothers up to?
So my middle brother, he's a firefighter. He's a captain of a fire department, and then he owns a pool company where he designs and builds pools, and then owns a pool cleaning company. And then my other brother is in telecommunications. So he works with all the T-Mobile, AT&T, all the cell phone companies, building towers, doing land acquisition and stuff like that.
Okay, thanks for indulging me with that. I think I should have at the beginning asked you to describe Miss Fitness Olympia, because I mentioned those acronyms, and one of them was an International Federation of Bodybuilding, and I know I've heard you talk about this before, and what you do is it's not what people traditionally think of as bodybuilding, and I just don't want to confuse people. So maybe you can just explain the distinction between the two and what you're a champion at.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, it's great because it's kind of generalized. It is in the umbrella of bodybuilding. So bodybuilding, people think Arnold Schwarzenegger, great athlete. I mean, so what he won is like Olympia. So that's the type title I was going after. However, there's multiple divisions in our sport. I'm in the fitness division. And what that means is we don't get on stage, we don't flex, we don't do any of the stuff that people think is traditional bodybuilding. Yes, we have to be in shape. They judge our physique, but my division for fitness, we actually have to do a 2-minute choreographed routine. And that's where the bulk of our scoring comes in. So that includes gymnastics, doing backflips, tumbling passes, strength moves, where you're seeing those flying push-ups, plyo push-ups, where you're like 5 feet off the ground. You have to incorporate dance. And then you get to be creative and do whatever you want. So one of my things that I implement, and I'm kind of known for, is breakdancing, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I include breakdancing in all of my themed type routines. We wear costumes. So that's the division I compete in. Like I said, we still have to be in shape, like physically fit, but my division is judged more on our actual choreographed routine, where other divisions are judged on, when they flex, how their body looks. And so that's where the differentiation is.
Okay. Well, thanks for doing that. And we'll get way more into this, but I want to go back again to, you're growing up, your two brothers, you're sort of trying to compete with them. You're doing all kinds of sports, you're working, you're earning money. What were you thinking, or what's the earliest that you can recall you thinking about your future, Whitney, like what you wanted to do?
Honestly, I always wanted to own my own business, and
okay.
I'm very active. I'm always kind of moving. I grew up trying to play any and every sport that my parents would allow me to. So I knew sitting behind a desk and just typing on a computer all day was never going to fulfill me. Now, sometimes you got to take steps to get to where you want to be, but I always knew I wanted to do something where I got to be the leader of my own company, but I wanted to do something that I was super passionate about. And growing up, I kept thinking, I need to figure it out now. I remember in junior high being like, what am I going to do when I grow up? What kind of business do I want to start? Because I need to start planning now. High school, college. I graduated college and was still like, I don't have that idea yet for my own business. So I tried to stop putting pressure on figuring it out and just decided it's going to come to me when it's going to come to me. Okay. And sure enough, it did. But, in the meantime, I thought I want to explore different industries, different jobs. And I did. I was doing stuff in the mortgage industry. I worked for a major ad agency. Then I got into the fitness environment. So I had experience in several completely different industries. And I found little pieces of gold in all of them. What did I like about it? What didn't I like? And then I had an opportunity to partner up and open up a gym. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was the first time I really had that spark. A lot of people would say, you always say you want to start your own business. Why don't you open up I remember there was this girl who pitched me and said, let's open up a purse company, handbags. And I'm like, I had got zero reaction from that. But it was weird. I remember still to this day having that idea come to me about opening up a gym. And I went home that night and wrote out a 38-page business plan. By the next morning, was up all night. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I knew that was the way to go. I was so excited about it. It was almost like I had these ideas in my head. I've never written a business plan ever in my life. In college, we did mediocre little exercises, but it was like, all right, let's do this. And that's kind of what started my entrepreneurial path. It wasn't, washing cars in elementary school.
Hey, everybody, just a quick pause here to let you know how much I appreciate that you've made time for my podcast. If you're not already a subscriber, please become one today. Leave a review and tell a friend. Now, let's get back to the show.
So let's talk about the path there, because you mentioned, that you weren't, what were the sports you played, by the way, in high school and college?
So in high school and college, I did track, cheerleading and dance, and diving. And then when I got into college, that's where I had an opportunity to run track in college. And I passed on it, which I'm like, oh, I still regret that because that would have been fun. But I went to ASU and I actually was on their dance team. And that was great. But in college, it was tough because I had to work multiple jobs to pay for college. And a lot of the sports teams, they don't even allow you to have a job. And then others, your schedule with practice and games didn't allow you to have a job. So I only did, in college, I only did dance for 2 years. I did cheer at a community college my first year, but that was it. I had to financially be able to get through college. So I just did a lot of stuff on the side because, like I said, I love to always be active, but I wish I would have still done track in college.
Okay. And just sort of tangent here, did you watch the show Cheer, or have you watched that? It's like a Netflix show or something. Okay.
People talk about it all the time. I have never seen it.
Okay. I wanted to see how real life it was, because it's also a community college, I believe. And we were on vacation somewhere, and my wife and daughter started watching this show, and it's like all those shows, they kind of suck you into all the drama of the stories, right? But it was very intense too, the training. And as I recall, it was, you trained like the whole year for one event, sort of like your 2 minutes at Miss Fitness Olympia. Like you train for that, and if that's it, you either win or you don't.
That's how it was. Yeah. Growing up, even in high school, I was on the cheer squad in my high school, and same thing. You practice year round for the one state championship. But that's what's great, because it kind of now I knew what I was getting into when I got into this sport of fitness and trying to win Olympia. It's like, months and months and months for one shot.
That's that's amazing, because I never played. I always played team sports, football, baseball, where we had lots of, you had lots of opportunity to sort of prove yourself, get better, get beat up, whatever. But just, it's just like all that effort in just 2 minutes or however many minutes you have. And that's it. That's your whole season.
And even now, I was used to at least being on stage with a group of people, and then when I got into this sport, it's just me. I'm out there performing solo on stage. So if I miss a back tuck and I land on my face, you can't really hide that. It's pretty obvious.
Well, you can hide a broken leg. You can hide anything. I'm thinking, but
that is true.
Well, what about your boys? What are they into? Are they into sports?
Yes, they are. So my oldest, who's 16, in high school, he played baseball, but then you got to pick season. So he did that the first year, and now he's doing track in the in the spring. And then he plays football in the fall. And that's it's very competitive here. So it's kind of a year round thing. And then my youngest does baseball and football.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. So at least you have a lot of games to go to then. They're not just practicing for the whole.
Oh yeah. Every weekend it's something during the week. It's carpool, mom, everything. So, but I love it.
So you said, as you were growing up, you didn't think that sitting behind a computer would be the thing for you. And yet, your first sort of foray into a career, you worked for a mortgage company and then an advertising agency, which seems to me to probably be a lot of computer work. And you did that for some time, as I understand it, before this, idea for the gym, whatever, sort of came to fruition. And a lot of people, I feel like there's a lot of people, and you tell me if you agree with or disagree, that, they have these dreams like you did. I don't want to work behind a computer. I want to do something. I don't know what, but I'm going to take a job because I need money and I'm going to get skills and relationships off of this. And then they stay there.
Yeah.
The sort of dream starts to erode, or just keep being pushed out further and further. Sure. What was it like? I believe a lot in convergence, right? So if I have a desire for something and I don't know how to make it happen, I need to keep taking little steps towards it, even though I'm not sure if they're the right steps. Because if I do that, I'm going to put myself in the company or the position or the time or the place or whatever, where it finally comes to me. What was your journey like that? I mean, you had I think it was your friend you said who, no, the friend was the first one. Was there someone else who influenced you on the gym idea?
It was honestly what influenced me on the gym was I was pregnant with my second child and was on bed rest for 3.5 months.
Oh, okay.
Someone like me on bed rest, it was horrible, but that forced me to go, okay, so I have a lot of time to think. What could I do if I could do anything in the world? And I was still happy at that time in my job at the ad agency, but I wasn't totally happy. And so that allowed me to say, take a risk and try something new. But to also kind of answer your question, the way you're right. After I graduated college, it's like, well, I got to pay bills. So I need a job. And so I got one, but one thing I always tried to pay attention to was each year truly gauging my level of happiness. If my level of happiness in that current job was not going up, even if it just went up slightly, then I knew it's only going to get worse. Once it started dipping, I knew, okay, this is the time to make a change. So obviously I was younger. I had not had kids yet, but it was like, this is the time to try things, to take heavier risks because, I wasn't stuck in a certain location. If I wanted to totally try a different industry, it's okay. But I tried to always pay attention to where is that stress and the level of happiness. And if it started, taking me down, it was time to make a switch. I always knew whatever I'm doing, if it's not getting better and better each year, I need to find another outlet. I need to find another career path, or I need to change my current situation so that it does go up. And so once in both jobs, working at the mortgage company, working at the ad agency, as soon as it started dipping, it was like, okay, what am I going to do? What's my next move? Think about it. Don't just do a knee-jerk reaction, because once you can feel it dipping, that's where you need to start the wheel spinning to go make a change now. Otherwise you will be stuck. And I've seen that with so many people growing up. And even like a lot of my parents' friends who just were so unhappy in their career. Well, hitting the lottery was not a likelihood probably that was ever going to happen for me. So I just knew I wanted to be able to enjoy what I did. And I love to help people. I knew ultimately whatever I ended up doing for the long term would be having a positive impact on someone's life in whatever industry that was. So that's kind of the things that really helped guide me to go, is now the time to make a shift? Is now the time to make a change? And like I said, I always still had in the back of my head, I want to own my own company, but I needed to wait until I really got that spark and that fire before I put all my eggs in one basket to go that direction.
Okay. And you were around how old when you did this, when you finally made that decision?
To open up my business, I was 31.
Okay, 31. So you had 3.5 months of bed rest to think about your happiness factor and what else you might want to do. You write your business plan in one day, and then what? How do you get it off the ground? And I'm asking because people, I think it's kind of a mystery to people sometimes about how businesses actually get started. But then I'm also asking because gyms are, most gyms are like dime a dozen, right? They get started and they don't go anywhere, So how did you get it started?
Well, I knew after bed rest, after I was fortunate enough to have a healthy baby and I was off bed rest.
Congratulations, of course.
Thank you. I know it was like light at the end of the tunnel, right? But I knew if I wanted to go in this direction, and I didn't have the idea to open up my business yet, but I knew I wanted to do something different. And prior to the pregnancy, I was working at the ad agency. I was coming home and just training people for fun out of my house, just out of pure joy and as a hobby. And that told me, why don't I try to do this? So after I had Jake, my second, I literally quit my job and went and got a job as a personal trainer at the local gym making minimum wage, which was the craziest thing because that was a massive pay cut. But I thought I'm excited about it. I wanted to do it. And honestly, in my heart, I knew I was so excited about the change and to try this as a complete career shift. And again, still knowing I'm still young enough. I'm not like set in my 50s where making a major career change at that time is a lot scarier. I thought, just do it. I left the doors open at the ad agency if things didn't work out. So I went in and just said, let's do this. Then I kind of got the idea pretty quickly. I'm like, this would be fun to own my own, but didn't really jump on that thought yet. I was in for about 6 months, and then an opportunity with a business partner came to me, and I thought, absolutely, now is the time to do it. But I still wanted some more research time to go, okay, this is a new industry. I need to do my due diligence, kind of figure out what I wanted. I was working at a big box gym, so it was totally different from what I was going to do, because it was just going to be a small private personal training gym. But I learned enough about watching the business structure. Also, my experience in mortgage industry, as well as the ad agency, gave me such good insight on just truly business in general, how to manage teams, morale, good things I like, things I definitely never wanted to do as an owner of a company. So I took all that in. And then honestly, it was a matter of going, okay, at some point, if I'm going to do this, I wrote the business plan. In my business plan, part of that was, how quickly do we get this set up? And so I gave myself 8 months, and we ended up opening up the gym in 9. So what happened was I ended up quitting my current job, because to truly do it right, I couldn't be half in, half out, not on that timeline. If I said, oh, I'm going to open it up in 2 years, maybe so. But it was a horrible time in the economy at that moment to open up a gym. But through my process of writing that business plan, I found a way that I felt was safe, where I wasn't putting everything I owned into it, where I was risking it all. And just starting on a small and then scaling it, knowing I want to grow strategically, but not getting too in over my head. And then it was a matter of, all right, let's just pull the trigger. And it was absolutely scary to go, oh my gosh, I'm going to jump in. I'm leaving everything. I've never owned a business. It's an industry I'm not completely familiar with. But for me, jumping all in is the only way I know how to succeed, because then it's a matter of, I won't fail. I know in my heart, I won't fail. So if I'm half in, half out, that gives me the option to fail. If I'm all in, I got to work. I got to grind. I know my work ethic. And so that was for me. I had to quit the job and go, all right, this is going to happen. And it did open up the gym in 9 months, and it has grown since. And of course, allowed me the opportunity to open up other businesses, all within the fitness world. But it's been an amazing experience, but without really diving in head first and being all in, it would have never had the success that it did, because you've got to have that element of being scared a bit to make you work.
You got to be fearless enough to get over your fear.
Absolutely. You got to face it head on. All those little things that were scaring me, you think about it and go, okay, well, I can avoid that. If I do XYZ, that's not going to happen. So it's just truly identifying, what is the scariest thing? I'm going to open up my business. No one's going to come through the door. Well, if you have a correct marketing strategy, people are going to come through the door. The other thing, oh my gosh, what if I invest all this money and, do a build out of a gym, invest in all the equipment, and then I can't pay my trainers? Well, you need to have some financing, go get a loan, do your research. So there was always an answer, but you've got to truly identify worst case scenario.
Yeah, I definitely believe that, especially at the startup level. You if you're not 100% committed to the business, you use the word option to fail. I would use the word excuse to fail. You're giving yourself an excuse to fail. So when did you know? How long did it take before you knew this is? I mean, I know you knew it was going to work, but when did the evidence start to? How long did it take for the evidence to start to validate that belief?
Well, we were lucky. Our first year, we hit the 5-year goal.
Okay. That's nice. That's a great way to start.
Oh, okay. And it was. And honestly, there was so many people kind of in my ear about, oh my gosh, you guys should do this, because we did well. Now, I wouldn't say it was like exploded, because the 5-year strategy was realistic. Mm-hmm. But I also was a little more cautious. I thought, okay, obviously we got to revise our 5-year strategy now because we already hit it. But I knew, being in the ad agency and working with a lot of companies and startup, I would see people grow too aggressively and not strategically. And so we set our sights, redid 5-year strategy, going, okay, we want to accomplish X, Y, Z. We want to, expand the business, have more square footage, hire more trainers. So it just really kind of just changed it. Now, again, that's not to say there were not major curveballs thrown in the way. Of course, that's business, that's life. But it was always just kind of staying on point, having your plan in place, knowing, are we hitting it? Are we, being like amazing and totally overachieving our goals, or are we falling short? And just constantly kind of paying attention to where we're at based on reaching our quarterly goals, annual goals, 5-year goals.
And when you, if I have my math right, around the time you were doing this, you were also, or shortly thereafter, is when you started to get interested in Miss Fitness Olympia. Is that correct?
Yeah. Honestly, I had opened the business and thought, oh, this would be fun, a fun challenge to compete. I never had the idea to try to turn pro and become a pro athlete and compete on the big stages. It was honestly a hobby. Just, you got to take care of yourself. You need to have your own personal goals. And since I owned a gym and was in the fitness world, I thought, well, let's make a goal that has something to do with fitness. And it just I did it. I did a show and loved it, loved the creativity of it, loved having that outlet to, do stuff besides just go to the gym and work out. Yeah, I can do that. But this type training, coming up with crazy breakdancing skills and working on, backflips and cool tumbling passes and looking on the internet and finding ridiculous skills and be like, I wonder if I could do that. Is that hard or not? I loved the challenge and I loved the creativity of it. And I was fortunate enough that I did really well pretty quickly. I turned pro within the first year, which is really a rare thing in our sport. And I just continued to roll with it. Again, not having expectations, but honestly, I think that's why I did so well, because I was just loving the journey. I didn't care about the outcome. I wasn't worried about winning the show. I wasn't so focused on, I got to be a pro athlete. When I won, I was like, oh, what does that do me? I'm a pro athlete. What does that mean? So I was just focused on enjoying the journey, having fun, enjoying show day where you get to go out and surprise everyone with this routine you put together and step off stage and go, oh my gosh, I screwed that up and that up. And I need to work on X, Y, Z. But as a pro athlete, that's why I truly can look back and go, I did well and did well fast, because I was not focused on the outcome. It's a subjective sport. You're sitting in front of a judging panel. It's not like running a race in track where there is a finish line and whoever crosses the finish line first wins. It's absolutely subjective.
Hey everyone, if you like what I'm doing with this podcast and want to participate in more of the things I'm thinking about and exploring, subscribe to my newsletter today. It's super simple. Just go to 𝘾𝙘𝙖𝙧𝙚 right now, put in your email, and you will get the very next issue. It's short, thoughtful, and designed to inspire, activate, and maximize the greatness in you.
It's like, who liked my routine better, in my music or my costume or my skills? Everyone has a different opinion. So I was never worried about what the judges thought. They weren't going to give me the validation of, did I win? I knew I'd win if I did the work that I needed to prepare. Did I do my routine well on stage and show up in the best physical condition that I could? And did I step off stage going, nailed it? That's how I determined if I won or if I lost, not how I placed in the show.
And was there some other influence, a person you knew that was doing it or something, or was this something that had been on your radar anyway? And you sort of were like, well, I've got my gym now. I've got, this could be good for business as well as good for me for a challenge. What influences, if any, were there for you?
Truthfully, I knew nothing about the sport when I got into it. I'd seen stuff in magazines, but I didn't know there was criteria in creating a fitness routine. Like there's mandatory moves. I knew none of that. What really motivated me to get on stage early on was I had someone tell me, you would be horrible in this sport. You will never do well. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to prove you wrong. Cause I love a challenge. And that honestly was what lit my fire to go, I'm going to do this now just so I can be like, oh yeah, I told you I could step on stage. Not necessarily that I would win or do well, but like, you could never do that. Oh yeah, I can. So that's truly what fueled me, to be honest.
Was that person someone whose opinion mattered to you?
It's actually, at the time, it was my business partner that he was more into the sport. And he coached some of these athletes. He was still new at it, but, it was just that challenge. He's like, I was doing marathons, triathlon, like endurance type events. He's like, this is not a sport for you, like stepping on stage in these things. But he didn't know about the fitness division really either. He coached athletes in other divisions, figure, bikini. So he's like, I don't know how to coach you. So I think it was more of a thing like, oh, you can't do it because I don't know how to help you. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out.
So we're going to get more into this, but if you're listening and you want to check this out right away to see what she's talking about, you can just go to YouTube and you can put in her name, Whitney Jones, WHITNEY Jones 2021, or any year, 2019, 2018, and she'll come up and you'll see what these routines that she's talking about. But that's like the product. But I want to talk a little bit more about what goes into creating that product. So it's very unique because it's extreme athleticism, but there's also there's a brand up there too. It's not like, hey, I'm just playing my sport. You have a whole personality sort of going on with this as well. And I'm wondering how long, you had the dance and you had the cheer and you had exposure, younger, as you were coming up into these things, but how long did it take you, Whitney, to really feel like you had the right combination to become a champion?
Well, to be honest, so yes, I did have, I danced, when I was older, but even growing up, I had zero gymnastics experience, not in dance. Like I didn't do dance in elementary school, junior high, or anything like that. I got into this sport and I was not like everyone else. I started a lot older. I was 32 when I started in the sport. Most of the girls I'm competing against at the pro level are early 20s. So I'm way late in the game.
Are most retired by 32? Or do they continue?
30s, they're usually retired. Okay. Yeah, because then they start having families.
They have families, yeah.
I'd already had my kids. Like this was not on my radar. And they all, I would say 90% of the women in my division are all gymnasts and have been like level 10, which is the highest you can be, or level 10 gymnasts, have been doing it since they were 3 or 4. So I knew I was not like everyone else. And again, I can dance and I dance for ASU, but it's not like I, again, went through club dance competitions my whole life. Like I'm more of an amateur at everything. So in a way it helped me because if you have a gymnastics background, if you have a dance background, you tend to stay in that realm and you don't really try to learn anything else. Well, I was not great at anything. Yeah, I didn't have gymnastics. My dance was mediocre. My strength moves, I was doing an endurance events for the last 5 years prior to that. So it's not like I had this muscle that's needed to do handstand push-ups and plyometric push-ups where you're jumping off the ground. So I was mediocre at everything, but I loved the challenge of it. And I don't like not being the best. I just want to be able to be competitive and in the mix. So I worked and worked and worked. And then I started realizing me working year round versus some of the athletes I was competing against who kind of take a break. And then, 3 to 4 months out from their show, they start working and they just continue to bring the same skills every year. They don't learn anything more. Well, I had such a massive learning curve that I was constantly learning new things and bringing new skills. And then I thought breakdancing looked so fun I mean, it's so hard, but again, I liked that. That helped give me a different look. And when I started putting breakdancing elements into my routine, it helped me stand out because, again, no one else was doing it. So then I really kind of went in that direction to say, I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to stand out on my own. My routines, you know, again, I didn't have the gymnastics experience. I wasn't like everyone else. So my routines really looked different. Then you got to throw in, again, because I don't have this training, I had almost every Olympia, I had a broken bone that I competed with because I was trying such crazy, outlandish skills, and you have injuries. And it was like, oh, I want to do this skill. Well, I don't know if I can do it. There's only one way to find out. So unfortunately, our category, our fitness division, there's a lot of injuries with it. But I will say it's one of the greatest things because it forced me to think out of the box. I mean, my first Olympia, I was in a cast. I had a broken arm. So you can't do a lot of the strength skills and handstands when you're in a cast. But I qualified for Olympia. I got to show up and do something. So again, you figure out, what can I do for 2 minutes that doesn't really require two very strong arms? And so I started coming up with unconventional skills, tricks, choreography, because I needed to fill 2 minutes. And so a lot of the stuff that I brought to the stage was so unlike what everyone else was bringing that it helped me. And then unfortunately, you know, I had more injuries through the years, but it wasn't until about 2018. 2018 was when I won my first world championship title. What happened there was the year prior, I actually broke my neck, and it was a bad injury. Of all the bones I've broken and all the surgeries I've had, which is a plenty, that was, it was very bad, very hard, but my goal was to get back on stage because it was such a bad injury. Everyone said it was career ending. I was not going to settle for that. I knew I wasn't done yet. And there was just no one had come back as a pro athlete from that type of injury and even been mediocre. So my goal was to just come back and show up to give people hope that if you ever break your neck, hopefully no one listening, hopefully yourself included, never has to break their neck. It's pretty bad. But I had surgery. I got my movement of my arm back. I have a 12-piece metal cage in my neck that they used to put it back together. And like I said, I just needed to provide hope for anyone that had gone through this type of injury that you can get back to your regular life. When I was going through the whole process, I was on all these forums and blogs, and it was just like doomsday. And I thought, no one is giving any hope to me. So I thought, I've got to be that person. I almost felt like it was my duty. So it flipped my mindset of going, you know what? This is an opportunity to just show up and come back into this sport to the best of my ability, whatever that is.
Right.
But I just worked and again, had to think out of the box trying to compete after an injury like that. And I showed up 9 months after my neck surgery and ended up winning, which I'd never won a show that was the first world championship title. And I won it, which I was going to go in totally happy to place last. But it was just a different mindset. And that's where I really tapped into the power of your mind in what you can achieve, not allowing any doubts to creep in your head, not allowing any of the negative voices that you hear, blocking out all the noise. And that's when I realized, whoa, okay, I'm onto something that nobody else is tapping into. And that was extremely powerful.
I hadn't heard about the neck. That's an amazing story. I'm glad that you know it worked out for you, and
I know, right?
My gosh, that's a tough one. And to come back and win afterward, it had to be so amazingly gratifying. Like, oh my gosh, and surprising maybe too, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
My gosh.
I mean, like I said, I was just so happy to get on stage at that show and be able to perform.
Yeah.
And you know, I was ready. I knew I was going to get up there and I was going to be able to complete my routine. But again, never expected to win, never, because I was bringing a routine that was so unlike anything I had ever done before.
Just a short break here to ask you a question. Have you read my book? It's called Ownership: How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck, and it's available on Amazon, Audible, and everywhere else. If you're looking for inspiration that will help you unlock your greatness and potential, order or download your very own copy today.
So now this is even more amazing because, I know what happened prior to 2021. And I've watched the video a couple of times knowing what was happening. And it's like a magician. I can't see how there's nothing that I can pick up that indicates what you were going through during that one. So why don't you tell us about that? It becomes a lot easier to understand now that you've described the broken neck thing, but my gosh. So just before 2021, you have something else happen to you.
Yeah. So before the Olympia competition, again, it's like the Super Bowl or the World Series. So if you're qualified to go to Olympia, you go out a week early, you do all this press and media and meet and greet with fans. So I was in Florida for the competition the week prior, and, a few days out, you do your last run through of your routine and then try to, rest so your body's fresh for show day. So I was practicing and had a mishap in my routine. And again, it's like you're not going full out, but it was a room that I had never practiced in. And the walls, like when I'm flipping, I get nervous with proximity, and it was a smaller area. Mm-hmm. And I got too close to the wall when I was doing one of my crazy backward flips. And out of the side of my eye, I thought I was going to hit the wall. So I pulled out of my back flip early. Long story short, came down, and this is on a conference room floor. So there's no padding, there's no mats, nothing. Ended up landing on my knee. And I thought, oh man, I just busted up my knee. I've torn my ACL, my MCL, I've had knee surgeries. My knee swelled up instantly. Long story short, it ended up not being the knee. I had actually broken my leg. And I knew it was bad. I knew something was wrong, whether it was torn ACL, broken leg, whatever. But I was there. The competition was, I think, 3 days away at that point. And I knew I wasn't pulling out. So I said, I'm not going to the doctor till I get home. We'll figure out whatever's wrong is still going to be wrong when I fly back home to Arizona.
Right.
I'm doing this competition. And so we worked on the swelling. I had to hide my limp from everyone. And I had to revise my routine in my head because I knew there wouldn't be certain skills I could do. So I had to change my routine and never have an opportunity to practice it until I stepped on stage live to perform it. And I know it's great to hear that you said you couldn't tell. I absolutely can tell, because the routine that I ended up doing on stage was not the routine I'd practiced for months. Okay. It was not what I had even practiced the week prior. It was way better. What I had was way better, but I had to water it down, knowing that I couldn't do a lot with the left leg. And then I had to hide the fact that I had an injury, so I'm glad that you couldn't. But the thing was, you worked so hard, just like when you said from that show, the TV show Cheers. Yeah. You worked so hard for that one moment. And again, even if I showed up and I just could only do a mediocre routine, I had to try. I never wanted to think back and go, what if I would have done it? What could have happened? I had to try, and I had to just bring my best. It's like I never want to agree to do something and pull out unless I absolutely can't. So I didn't know what to expect. And I thought, I'm going to go in. I've got 2 minutes. There's a lot you can trick your brain to do in 2 minutes. And, it's like, just get through. You focus on the next movement, the next facial, the energy, and you got to block out the noise and the pain. I mean, granted, when the routine was done and I stepped off stage, I was dying. I mean, the pain was at an all-time high, 10 easy. But it's like, you know what? I had to try. And I ended up winning. And people didn't know until after the fact that I had a broken leg, because I didn't tell anyone, obviously, for probably 2 weeks.
Well, like I said earlier, just Google that Whitney Jones 2021, and you tell me if you think. She says I tricked my mind. Well, you tricked my mind too, because yeah, it's amazing. And as an audience member, and of course I'm not a judge, but as an audience member, I certainly couldn't tell that the routine was changed to accommodate this thing, because I couldn't even tell that there was an accommodation. It was just amazing, and says so much about the power of your, I don't know if it's your mind, or if it's your mind in your body, or if it's just something that you've been given that most people don't have. But whatever it is, the combination of them was, it clearly shows that you've got some exceptionalism to you. And I'm so happy that you're not only challenging it all the time, but that you're sharing it with so many other people as well. So what
I will say, you don't always need to do as I do, do as I say.
Yeah.
Clients that are like, oh my gosh, I broke my foot, I should compete. I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to encourage people to be that crazy, but under certain circumstances, obviously I knew what I was capable of, and I just wanted to give it my all. Not saying, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to compete with a broken leg. That wasn't the goal. I wanted to just show up.
Yeah, well, you finished with a broken arm and a cast before. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's normal for me. At least I'm consistent.
Yeah. Do you have a coach for this?
I don't. I have my business partner still kind of does my diet here and there, but for the most part, I know what to do. So it's great to have that second eye for him to go, hey, if anything, he says I need to eat more as I get closer to show, because, the thought is, oh, you've got to get in shape. And it's not always that way. So it's just nice to have a third eye sometime, or I'm sorry, it's a second eye, not a third eye. And then when it comes to routine stuff, I've worked with a few people over the years to kind of give me some guidance, ideas. But since I wasn't formally trained as a gymnast or a dancer or anything, anytime I've worked with someone to help me, I take a total step back. I learn. I learn visually. I watch someone do a back flip, for example, and then I watch it enough times over and over. Then I start visualizing myself doing the back flip. And then there's going to be a certain point I'm like, all right, today's the day I'm going to try. And I have friends who can spot me and help me now to do certain skills. But if you break down how to do a back flip, it'll take me a year. And then I probably can't even do a standard back flip that I've been able to do, from day one. So I've found that it derailed me as an athlete. It was making me be less capable when I had to break it down. That's not the way my brain works. You show me a skill, don't tell me how to do it. Let my brain figure out how to do it, because I do everything a little bit different. Like if you break it down as a gymnastics judge on how I do my skills compared to everyone else that's on that stage, it's totally different. But I still land it, and it's not based on, we're not judged on technicality. Yeah, we're judged on, did you land your flip or not? How you got around and the flair you put into it. Oh, well. So yeah, I'm a different type of athlete. I learn differently.
And as I recall, you, in your diet, you're okay with some donuts here and there, and you're a donut girl.
I'm very lucky to have a lot of freedom, but it's because I've been consistent. I've never done extreme dieting, when I got into this sport. And as I get closer to show, my calories actually go up, whereas most people, your calories go down.
So you've got 4 or 5 businesses now. You've got 3-time champion. Are you going for a fourth champion?
That's the plan. So this year for 2022, it's in December. So still, we're in summer right now. So definitely still plenty of time to even put together the ideas and stuff. So right now, it's focusing on my businesses, focusing on clients, focusing on my boys, and just, the great thing about being in the position of being a champ is there's a lot of fun opportunities that are thrown my way, and I'm just enjoying it. I'm loving fun stuff. Like being on this podcast. Again, it's opened up so many just fun opportunities to meet new people, to work on various projects and try a bunch of new things. So I'm enjoying the ride, most definitely.
Well, I will have all of your contact information, your social handles, everything in the show notes, of course. But is there one place that you want to direct people to reach out to you? I think I found you on Instagram and connected with you there.
Yeah, Instagram's probably the easiest. Instagram or my website. So my website is FitWhitJones, so FITWHIT Jones.com. And then my Instagram is Whitney Jones _IFBB Pro. And either way, those are the two most frequently accessed options in order to reach me, see the services, and of course, even with Instagram, you get to know my personality pretty quickly.
Okay. Well, like I said, I have all that in the show notes. Whitney, it's been an amazing experience to get to know you a little bit. Thank you for making time to be on the podcast and share your story, and congratulations on your success, and not just in the fitness world as an athlete, but as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a mom, and probably a lot of other things that we didn't get to.
Hey, it's just enjoying the life that we live, and of course, showing gratitude for being able to, work, if that's what you want to call it. I'm very fortunate to love what I do and to have these fun opportunities. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.